Hi, guys. Happy Sunday. Good to be here with you all. You might be able to tell I'm back in Phoenix in my regular spot. Thanks for joining me today. Hello, hello. Beautiful, beautiful humans. All right. Um, we got an interesting topic today because I went on Instagram early and I asked a question on my stories. I said, "What are your biggest mindset challenges?" And don't worry if you responded, I'm not going to tell anyone your name. I'm but I am going to address I'm going to tell you guys what some of what was said. Not by who. And then I have a common reason for each of these issues. In fact, funny that there's so many different people responded and the responses would seemingly be all over the place. But the reality is they all tie back to one thing. And that, Nathan, is going to be today's topic, which is it's not your fault. It's your nervous system. And we're going to dive into how that is the case and what can be done about it. Cool? So, I'm going to just read out some of these topics or some of these challenges that people have because they're pretty awesome. And I appreciate those of you who did respond. There's lots of them, so I'm not going to be able to read them all out, but maybe I'll do like 10 of them. All right. So, um, one was believing in myself and believing in myself more and taking consistent action. Another was staying positive when world events cause me stress. Having the patience to allow life to work. Overthinking. Working when I'm exhausted. Looking more to the present instead of focusing on the past. The constant battle or thinking that I will not succeed. Or am I doing this right? Having so many big plans that it's overwhelming and hard to know what you're supposed to do. Procrastination. Here's a good one. People suck. Analysis paralysis. Being afraid of taking a leap. All right, so people suck. That was fun. Um, so if you guys can kind of see the commonality in those replies, there's from what I can understand and what I can see, a hijacking of our central nervous system. And I think we need to be more mindful and to give ourselves a little bit more of a pass in understanding just how powerful our nervous systems are. So I'm going to kind of dive in a little bit here into the two main arms of our CNS, the central nervous system, and how they are influencing these struggles, these mindset struggles that the people were responding to and have consistently. And there's a lot of consistency within those, even though they were all kind of saying different things, there's consistency in all of them. And it's a nervous system response. So here's a little bit of science 101 today. All right. So your central nervous system is comprised of two arms. There is the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And they're very important in regulating our body. And what ends up happening is your system is always trying to be in a state called homeostasis. All right, homeostasis is our flatline norm, our base level. Now, what's interesting about homeostasis is you would think that homeostasis would be the place that's the best for us, right? And that our body would know that homeostasis is where it's wanting to go, and so it should be the best place for us to be in if that's where our body's trying to take us, right? To give you an example, if you're under stress, a tremendous amount of stress, your sympathetic nervous system will kick in and the fight or flight response will take over. Now, as a result of the fight or flight response, there's some neurochemicals and transmitters that are released in the body and hormones. Those chemicals are, first, we've got cortisol. All right. Cortisol, as you guys are aware, is the stress hormone. It's gotten a bad rap in the world because it produces belly fat and it causes stress on the heart and vasoconstriction and all these different physiological responses. But we need cortisol in our lives because you wouldn't wake up and get out of bed without cortisol. Cortisol is also the hormone that is released in the body at the time of waking up. And it's what tells the body to turn on. It tells the body, hey, it's time to get your butt out of bed and go and do something, right? And so you need cortisol in order to just wake up and get out of your bed. So we don't want to lose cortisol. We don't want to get rid of it, right? We need it. It's there for a purpose. And if it's the first chemical that gets released in your body the moment you wake up, it's obviously important, right? So again, going back to the stress response, you get cortisol as a hormone that's released. And in addition to cortisol, you get norepinephrine, which is adrenaline. And the adrenaline causes your heart to beat faster. It causes your veins to constrict, right? It also causes your pupils to dilate so that you can see more. It is taking blood away from your digestive area, and it takes blood away from your prefrontal cortex, so your thinking and creation area of your brain, and it puts all of that blood flow into your limbs. And you guys could probably understand why that's happening is because your body's in fight or flight. And so your body is saying, as a response to this stress, we're going to send nutrients and we're going to send blood to the parts of the body that will help you get the hell out of the situation. It's not a time when you get to be creative because it's taking away nutrients from the brain, from the prefrontal cortex, and it's putting it into your extremities, right? It's taking away blood flow from your digestive system because it's not a time to digest your food, dummy. It's time to run away. So this is what your body is doing in the stress response. And it makes sense that that's what's happening. Now, the other aspect of that are the chemicals that are being released in your body are also causing thought patterns to emerge. And those thought patterns are constrictive. Those thought patterns are risk averse. And those thought patterns are doing exactly what the chemicals are doing to your body. Those thought patterns are going to be such that you aren't going to have the most creative response to the situation. That's where base emotions like anger and jealousy and frustration and scarcity, that's where these things come from, because you don't have the ability, you don't even have brain and blood flow activity to allow a more creative response. That light bulb in your body has been switched off when you're in that response. And so it's not even your fault that that's what's happening, because imagine you being angry at a room that's dark that doesn't have a light switch, right? It's not the room's fault. I mean, there's no switch in here. The switch is off. Like that's the reason it's dark. So you can't get mad at yourself for having a base response to something, or to have to create a solution to a problem that's constrictive, that contracts. You can't be angry at yourself for having a base response to a situation or a problem when there is no blood flow to better parts of the brain, right? You're pretty much at that time dealing with just as limited mental capacities and resources, which is why even in the court system, crimes of passion are given lesser sentences, because even the criminal justice system is aware that you're of limited capacity when you're in those states. Crimes of passion, like, somebody murders somebody in a fit of jealousy and rage. Well, the court system understands that this person's nervous system hijacked them, and they were incapable of higher faculty of creative problem solving and to see a nonviolent solution. They got reduced to such basic uh, behavior that this was the result. And it's super primal, it's animalistic, and it's survival based, right? So I also want you to understand that when you're living in survival, these are the chemicals, this is the chemistry that dominates your entire existence. And because of that, your life, when you're in survival, is going to be reflective of that chemistry and of that limited capacity. All right. So that's the sympathetic nervous system. Now, there's the other arm of the nervous system, which you would imagine, and I'm sure if you're catching on here, is the opposite. And that's the parasympathetic nervous system, right? The parasympathetic nervous system produces a completely different set of chemistry, right? The first of which being serotonin, right? Dopamine. These are reward chemicals. These are chemicals that make you feel satiated, that make you feel euphoria. Anandamine, which is another chemical that's released from the parasympathetic nervous system, which is called the bliss molecule, which essentially just gives you an entire sense of euphoria and bliss in the body and in the brain. And when the parasympathetic nervous system is engaged, what ends up happening is blood flow is sent away from the extremities. So it leaves my arms, it leaves my legs, and the blood is now getting sent to the digestive system, and the blood is now getting sent to the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which allows me to now access higher states of consciousness and creativity. And so when you're in those states, you're in what has been described as flow state. And when you're in a flow state, your access to creative solutions, to the emotions that are accompanying that chemistry, which are joy, connection, gratitude, love. These are the emotions of and the chemistry of that specific nervous system. Another one of the hormones that are released is oxytocin, which, if you're familiar with, is what we have been able to reduce the feeling and the emotion of connection and love down to. When they look at the blood of a mom who's just given birth and is holding her baby, the amount of oxytocin that's released in the bloodstream is the highest it ever is. And that's what they feel connects the baby to mom and the mom to baby on that chemical level. And that produces the emotions of love. It produces the emotions of connection. And so the parasympathetic nervous system, of course, is the opposite, or the other hand, the other side of the hand, than the sympathetic nervous system. Now, the problem that we have is these parts of the nervous system, we would hope, are only triggered by real events, like what's actually happening in our lives. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Where the nervous system is actually stimulated from and what causes it is our thoughts. Now, on the other side of that, there's also a lot of studies that are showing right now that we become addicted to the chemistry of our nervous system. And so if you are finding yourself in a tremendous amount of stress in your job or at your home or both, your body now becomes resistant to the chemistry of that nervous system. So when you are in a stressful situation and your body produces adrenaline and cortisol, just like any addiction, eventually you're going to need more of the chemistry and more of the drug in order to feel its effects. And so that's where our biggest conundrum is, because we had at one time believed that homeostasis was where we want to be. But what happens when homeostasis is a product of dysfunctional chemistry? A drug addict's homeostasis is high. Think about it. Why is it that heroin addicts will do everything and anything that they can to get their hands on a fix? And when they're not using, they're sick, physically sick. And they sometimes are so sick that they can even pass away from the sickness, right? Because their body is going into shock from the lack of homeostasis, from getting pushed away from the baseline of what it needs or it believes it needs to survive. And so homeostasis isn't always the right thing. Homeostasis is a product of what we've been doing. And if you're constantly in a stressful situation, homeostasis is stressful situations. And this is why you see people get addicted to the stress. Have you ever been friends with somebody who you've watched in a stressful relationship? And, you're like, what the hell are these two doing? I mean, they fight like cats and dogs. They hate each other. They're on, one day they're like, I can't believe this person. I'm going to murder them. I blah, blah, blah. He cheated or she cheated or she's this and that. And you think that these two people viscerally hate each other. And then all of a sudden, the next day you call them and they're like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm having the best day of my life. Oh, I'm with so-and-so. And it's just like, it's so good. We talked and everything's fine. And oh my God, it's just the best. And I love her so much. And I love him so much. Like, what I'm talking about. That like yo-yo relationship. I was in one for a couple of years in my younger days. And I can tell you it's hell, right? Like, it's a complete circus show. But I was absolutely in that addictive state. I was addicted to the toxicity. I was addicted to the chemistry of that relationship. Whenever it wasn't around, I was in withdrawal, right? And so even though I knew the woman was completely total crap for me, manipulative and a liar and just, there for her own benefits and, whatever. And I'm sure from her perspective, she had all of the same things to say about me. But we both were addicted to the drama. And so even when things were going well, out of nowhere, somebody would have to create drama in order for us to go back to homeostasis. Okay. And so this is the problem that we have to deal with. And guys, this isn't the product of, I had a bad mom. Oh, my dad wasn't very communicative and never hugged me. This doesn't come from that. This comes from millions and millions and millions and millions of years of evolution. This is not your fault. This is your biology, but it's not an excuse to sit around and do nothing about it. You can change. You can change the chemicals that your body is addicted to. You can change the circumstances of your homeostasis, and you can override the discomfort of not being in homeostasis to create a new one. And that, my friends, is the real solution to these questions. And that's why I want to bring them up again. And we can actually find the neurological, and we can find the chemical and the evolutionary start of all of these things. Let's start with one of them. Okay. Believing in myself and taking consistent action. All right. So let's unpack that. Now, of course, you believe in yourself, and maybe you believe that you're alive. You believe in your existence, so that you do believe in yourself. But what you're, I think, trying to say is that you don't believe in your capabilities of achievement, or you don't believe in your capacity to do better. And why is that important? Because when you believe in a capacity to do better, that means that you are moving away from what is comfortable. And comfortable is where you are right now. Now, if doing something that will push you out of that comfort means that you're leaving homeostasis, you're leaving that baseline place of comfort, you are now triggering the fight or flight response. And you are now triggering the chemistry of the fight or flight response. And your body is going to go in and feel those chemicals. Anxiety, you're going to feel the heart rate, you're going to feel the sweat, you're going to feel your pupils constricting or dilating. You're going to feel the vasoconstriction. You're going to feel the tightness. You're going to feel the tightness in the muscles. You're going to feel that in your gut. And why is that? Because your body is saying, hey, you're in danger. You're in danger because you're taking a risk. Now, here's where it gets hijacked. Your nervous system doesn't want you to take that risk, because if you do, then you may not survive the risk. And if you do this thing that's hard, if you do this thing that you might fail at, like try entrepreneurship or quitting your W-2 job or asking that girl that is way out of your league out on a date, by doing that thing and failing at it, you are essentially bringing yourself to that place of death, of ego death, of, hey, you're not good enough. You're not enough. You're not worthy. And we don't want to feel that. We would prefer not to feel that. So how about we create a thought pattern in the brain that is going to actually take you away from doing anything risky at all? That right there, friends, is how physiology and how your nervous system is actually the reason why you're killing your own dreams. So it's not about you not believing in yourself, my friend. It's you not being able to withstand the discomfort of the chemistry of the risk. And when you can boil it down to that, it doesn't get so difficult to do, because it's just as hard then as working out for the first time, right? Or doing that thing that we know is uncomfortable, like a cold plunge or meditation or hiking, doing that thing that's going to be taxing on the body, that's going to be taxing on the system, but knowing we'll survive. And knowing that by doing this thing that's discomfort or uncomfortable for the body and for the mind, that at the end of that discomfort is going to be the thing we need. I was watching David Goggins yesterday because you guys know he's going to be at Squat Up Summit. And I've got to introduce this man. So I need to understand a lot of what he's about. And I'll tell you, he is an intense human being. But one of the things that he says that is absolutely spot on is you have to do the uncomfortable things. You've got to do the things that suck. You've got to do the things that hurt. He hates running, so he runs all day long. He hates doing push-ups, so he does more push-ups. He hates waking up early, so he gets up at 2:00 in the morning. He hates everything he does because he knows on the other side of doing the thing that he hates is bliss, is the activation of the other side of the nervous system, which will produce all those other chemicals. So again, it's not about you not believing in yourself, friend. It's about your brain being hijacked by chemistry, creating a thought pattern in your mind that tells you that taking action and being consistent is actually detrimental to your survival. And we know that that's not true. All right. Patience in allowing things to work. Okay, so patience. Let's talk about the patience, because this is, I think, an epidemic of our society today, right? Our lack of patience. We want everything so quickly, and we're training our bodies and we're training our minds for instant gratification. I'm hungry. Boop. There we go. Food's going to be here in 10 minutes. I'm lonely. Boop. There's a girl waiting for me at this bar right now. I'm going to go on a date. Everything you could possibly want is available at your fingertips instantly. And so the chemistry, the reward mechanisms that come from achieving the thing, because I'll tell you what, when I was growing up, I couldn't just swipe on an app and date a pretty girl. No, no, no. If I wanted to go on a date with a pretty girl, I had to develop so many like guys, I'm not a exceptionally handsome person, right? I'm like 5'8". I've always been a little bit on the chubby side, and so I had to develop a personality. I had to become funny, I had to become engaging, I had to become a good communicator. If I wanted to date the kind of women that I wanted to date, I wasn't going to be able to do that just based on my jawline. Okay, it was going to need some work to get there. And so when I accomplished, for instance, courting the woman that I ended up marrying, when I accomplished that, the amount of dopamine, the amount of serotonin, the amount of anandamine that was released in my body to tell me that was a good job, that I nailed it, right? That was euphoria. Today, I don't even need to do that. Today, I can just get on, and if you swipe right and I swipe, I think that's the way. I haven't even been on the apps, guys, so I don't know if it's left or right. But if you swipe right and I swipe right and we both swipe right, then dopamine, right? And we don't even get the feeling of the rejection, because if you didn't swipe right or left on me and we didn't match or whatever, right? We just carry on. I don't have to deal with the emotions of you rejecting me to my face, right? And saying, thanks for having the courage for coming up and asking me on a date, but friend, you're 5'8" and chubby, and you don't look anything like the kind of man I want to date. Have a good day. Now I'd have to deal with that rejection, right? As a person, I'd be like, oh, damn, man, maybe I got to change my approach up. Maybe I got to do something a little different if I'm expecting to be successful in this dating thing. Now, again, because we're training ourselves for this instant gratification, the instant yes, the instant achievement, our whole system is out of whack, right? And so we no longer got to work for the things that we at one time needed to work for in order for them to happen. Now, add to that the mechanism in the brain called the reticular activating system. Okay, now you guys are familiar with what the reticular activating system is. You probably have just never heard of why it works. But what the reticular activating system does is it filters out information that you take in, and it tells you what is important versus what is not important. So you don't even get to decide what you are taking in terms of stimulus from the environment and decide that that's something I want to know or that's something I want to see. No, 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 no. It's deciding for you. And it's deciding for you based on what? Based on your survival. Okay? Now, to give you an example of how the reticular activating system works, it's that old thing that we've all experienced. You see a car, or you just go out and buy a car, and all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere. And you might now think, oh my God, after I bought this car, now everybody wants this car. What the hell? I thought I was like one of the first, but you were never really one of the first. That car has always been out on the street. That car has been just as plentiful as it was before you bought it. And the reason you're noticing it now is because your reticular activating system is no longer filtering it out. And so now it's showing it to you. Now it's available to you. And your brain isn't disqualifying it as useless information. But what if your brain is disqualifying opportunities? What if your brain is disqualifying areas for you to be more creative, to be more expansive? And what if it is only showing you the areas that are at peril and dangerous and problematic? And then you wonder why you're having a hard time staying consistent? Think about it. Your fucking brain is filtering out the information you need in order for it to change. Right? It's filtering it out. Like, how is that my fault? How is that your fault? I didn't even see it coming because my brain didn't even show it to me. That's the problem. right? And so we're in this constant feedback loop. We're in this constant feedback loop of I don't know what I don't know because I'm not being shown the things I should know. Let's go to another example. You guys, I'm not going to leave you here hanging and just make you feel like there's no hope, because there is. Overthinking. Oh my God, here's one. Overthinking. Because we talked about the instant gratification. Your brain is just being trained right now to that's what it is. That you don't got to work for it anymore. It's going to be as simple as a swipe. And if it's not a swipe, and if we can't get it that easy, it's not worth doing. The overthinking is your brain showing you the exact thing that it needs to produce the chemistry that it needs to go back into homeostasis. Now, again, if your homeostasis is a place of stress, if your homeostasis is anxiety, if your homeostasis is adrenaline, if your homeostasis is cortisol, and if you want to know what your homeostasis is right now, look down at your gut. Sitting in your, wherever you are right now, look at your gut. Is it hard? Is it bigger than it should be? Straight up. Then your homeostasis is stress, friend. Sorry to bear it to you. Sorry to break it to you, but it is. Your homeostasis is stress, and your body is addicted to the chemistry of homeostasis. That ain't a beer gut, friend. That is a stress gut. Now, the overthinking part, that's where our brain is producing thought loops that it needs to give it the chemistry that it's addicted to. What a mind F that is. What a mind F that is, right? Your brain is creating thought loops that it needs to produce the chemistry that it's addicted to, not the chemistry that you need, not the chemistry that your dreams want, not the chemistry that your hopes will thrive on, the chemistry that it needs to go back into homeostasis. And then you wonder why you're overthinking. You're overthinking because your mind doesn't want you to do anything, because your brain and your body say, hey, calling that real estate agent today? No, it's risky. This means that what happens if the agent is nice to you and you get a deal? And what happens if you get that deal and you make a little bit of money and then you decide, I'm going to quit my job? And then if you quit your job, we're not going to have consistent cash in here. And if we don't have consistent cash, we're not going to be able to survive and pay the bills. So why don't we just overthink this and look at the situation like, you know what? I think I need to know all the details before I take action. I'm not quite sure yet how to comp houses. So instead of taking the risk of doing something today, I'm just going to watch Jamil and Pace do it more. That's enough for today. That's the overthinking. That's the procrastination. That's the analysis paralysis. Where do you think paralysis comes from? Inaction. And the analysis is just your body creating thought loops so that it can create the chemistry that it's addicted to that's keeping you small. What the F? Now, guys, if you're fed up with this, let me know in the chat. Right? Let me know in the chat. If you're fed up of this, let me know. Because I had enough of it. I had enough. It was that to me just couldn't happen any longer. I had made the decision that I was no longer going to allow my brain, allow my body to be the master. I'm the master. That is the body. I'm the master of that animal. And friends, that's the truth. Because if you want to look at yourself, there's two aspects of you. There is the animal version of you, and then there's the divine in you. And when we're in the animal, we're allowing the animal to run the show. And when we allow the animal to run the show, it's where the monkeys take over the zoo. And it's not a good thing. Now, as I was watching David Goggins and I was listening to what he had to say, I realized that, like all the others that I have seen achieve greatness, he found comfort in the same action, in the same things. And although he does pepper it with a lot more cussing, which, I cuss, so whatever. Um, but the reality is what he and we all need to do in order to override that is to get quiet. It's to get quiet. When we can actually silence the mind. And why do you think in the Bible it says, "Be still and know that I am God"? Why is that there? What is stillness? Why is it important? And why is God telling us to be still? It's not only in the Bible, it's in the Quran, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, it's one of the main tenets of Buddhism. It's in all of the major faiths. This concept of stillness, silence. And yes, Robin, is so that we can hear what's really there. So we can override the animal and we can step into the divine. That we can get into that aspect of ourselves that's of creation. So that we can take the blood flow away from the extremities and we can put it back into the brain. So that we can release those chemicals of relaxation so that we can finally, just for a moment, take a breath. Right? Because it's so flipping hard otherwise. The mind is always in control. And it's not being nice to me. It's not just about visualization, guys. It's not just about, oh, I want some money, I'm going to visualize the mansion. Cool. Yeah, that can entangle you into a mansion. But I'll tell you another thing that happened to me as I made a bunch of money. I didn't get any happiness out of it. I didn't. I didn't find happiness and freedom in cash. I found time. That's what I got. I got time. All that money did was buy me time. But when I had the time, I was able to be quiet and really look at what my soul was trying to tell me. And that's when I started to activate the other side of the nervous system. And guys, we don't have to be a victim of it, right? I'm going to go through a couple more of these things that people wrote, and I'm going to teach you guys an exercise that I use to downregulate the parasympathetic nervous system and downregulate the sympathetic nervous system and upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system. Are you guys excited to hear how to do that? Do you want to know how to shut the sympathetic nervous system down and all of its bull crap, and how to regulate that parasympathetic nervous system so it can give us them good drugs? Yeah, the good chemicals, the anandamine, the bliss molecule. Give me that serotonin, baby. Just dump it in my gut. Make me feel like I just had an entire plate of chicken wings and had it cause no calories. I want that kind of chicken wings. I want the kind of chicken wings that I can eat and never get fat. I want that stuff. I want the beta carboline in my blood, man. I want that naturally occurring opiate to take all the pain away. Yes. I know for all of you drug addicts out there right now, you're probably like farting. You're so excited because I've said so many chemicals. Anyways, only a drug addict will understand what I mean when I said you're probably farting. Anyhow, looking more for the present instead of focusing on the past, right? Why does your brain go to the past? Well, the chemicals of the past are in the past, right? And your body doesn't know the difference between now and then. And so when you're reliving something that hurt in the past, when you're reliving that moment, when you're reliving the failures, when you're reliving all the ways you were let down, when you relive that, right? Your body is basically saying, "Hey, man, I need a little bit more of that cortisol. I need the energy of that cortisol." Right? It's like, look, meth addicts. Okay, do you know what a meth addict gets when they smoke meth? They get their heart rate starts to go up. It's like having a panic attack, basically. I don't know. I've never done meth, but I'm just assuming based off of the chemistry of the chemical amphetamine. Okay. I would imagine that it's like taking a, just burn. You're like, my heart's raced. My eyes are like, I'm ready to climb a tree. Like that's that, but that's the same effect of adrenaline. It's the same drug. If you look at an amphetamine molecule and you look at an adrenaline molecule, they're almost identical to each other. They're almost identical to each other. They're the same flipping thing. They're sitting in the same receptor sites in your body. So they're causing the same reaction. So what your body is basically saying is, hey, got any more of that meth? Got any more of that meth? Oh, you don't? Well, hold on. I know where to get it from. Let's go back into that time when your dad made you feel like a total piece of crap and reminded you about how you're worthless and you'll never get anything right. And yeah, let's just think of that. Oh, yeah, thanks. That's it. That's why you're living in the past and you're not in the present, because the past is where your drug's at. Effed up, isn't it? And it just keeps going back so that it can dip back into the sympathetic nervous system to give it the chemicals that it wants to keep the addiction alive. Now, I want to ask, because I'm sure many of you here don't see yourselves as addicts. But now that we've had this conversation, how many of you might have changed your thoughts on your addictions? Maybe you are addicted to that chemical, right? Maybe you are. So, what the F can we do? What can we do about it? Well, all you got to do is send me $5,000. I'm just kidding. Y'all were waiting for that. Oh my God. That's my favorite part. No, that's the best. How you do it. And it's the one thing that you own, that you were born with. You were born with it. And it's your breath. Your breath. Your breath is the key. It's your connection. It's the thing that connects us all to each other. We're breathing each other in and out all the time. If you ever think about it, like our breath and water are connected, because when we're breathing in water, we're breathing out water. There's water. Do that enough, it's wet, right? There's water there. And if you think about it too, where all that water came from, how all that water even came to Earth in the first place. Are you aware of that? In the beginning of the universe, it all got ejected out of Jupiter. Did you know that? Did you know that Jupiter basically pissed a bunch of meteorites into the atmosphere of ice, and those all got together and created Earth? And that's where that water is a part of. And that same water that Jesus drank is the same water on this earth that you're drinking now. Are you aware? Straight up. Straight up. It's all here. And that breath that you have, that same connection. Yes, thank you, Jupiter, for sure, for real. That same connection. That thing that's been binding everything that is alive here, right? Everything that's alive here is connected through water and connected by breath. All of us. When we're seeking for life outside of Earth, what are they looking for? Right? It's always water. It's always water. Right? Because if there's water, we can breathe. All right. So there's one specific type of breath that will downregulate the sympathetic nervous system and will upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And I've held it long enough. All right, simple. It's a simple breathing exercise. In for 4 in the mouth, in the nose, out for 8 through the mouth. Okay? So it's like this. In for 4, hold, out for 8. Out for 8. Now it's a little different from box breathing. It's just the elongated exhale. All right? And you want to purse those lips. You want to purse those lips when it's coming out because you want to regulate the airflow. You don't want to push all that air out the same in the same time. Box breathing is when you're in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. That's a box. This is a nervous system breath. Right? And again, it's just simple. In for 4, hold, out for 8. Now, the discrepancy in the inhale to the exhale is what's signaling to the body to turn off the sympathetic nervous system and to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system. And I would do that for about 2 minutes. You can get the effect in as little as 2 minutes, and you can do it as long as 20. So for me, when I really want to go to sleep and I don't want to eat a weed gummy and, do all the things that I would normally do to go to sleep, like take Advil PM. Guys, I'm just being straight up with you guys here. I'm not this perfect dude. I'm just on the same rock with you guys doing my best to figure it out. But that breath has been a game changer in my night routine. It has enabled me to not need the weed gummy. It's enabled me not to need the Advil PM. It's actually been a game changer. And it's 20 minutes of that exact breathing that I just gave you. In for 4, out for 8. In for 4, out for 8. And I'd be really interested to hear from you guys on how it's working out. If you're finding yourself waking up in anxiety, and just hold it when you're in the top, just hold it for a beat, like 1 or 2 seconds. It's not a long, you don't want to get uncomfortable. I would really like to hear from you guys on how it has been working. Because I think if you're waking up in a heightened state of anxiety, and if you're constantly ruminating about the fake threats that your brain is trying to create and produce for you that is causing you to not act, the analysis paralysis, the lack of living in the presence, try this, right? Try it for 2 minutes and let me know how it works on the other side of it. I'm telling you, it's been a massive, massive change for me. It's been, I've been getting told by people lately, Jamil, you look different. Jamil, you seem more rested. Jamil, you're glowing a little bit. And I can honestly say that breathing exercises, breath work specifically, has been the game changer for me. I've been a meditator for over a decade. But I don't think I've been a breather until the last year and a half, 2 years, like a true breather. And I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to share with you guys some of the techniques that have been extremely monumental in helping me regulate myself and how I've been able to overcome a pretty stressful, year, right? It was a hard year for me that last year. And not a lot of people could have gotten to the other end of that intact, or at least as fast as I was able to, right? So I want you guys to communicate with me. Send me a DM on Instagram. Let me know how it's been working for you guys. Don't just show up to these and watch them and feel good for a minute. I wanted to leave you guys this week with something that you could take home, something that you could do through the week, and I would really, really appreciate hearing how it's worked. Now, folks, if this video or any of the other mindset videos have been helpful to you, do me a favor, hit the like button and leave me a comment and share this with somebody that you care about. If you have a friend that's dealing with anxiety, if you have a friend who is stuck in analysis paralysis, if you have a friend or a family member who is talented, so flippin' talented, but they just can't seem to get off their butts and do the thing, send them this video. If they could finally take care of their nervous system, maybe they would understand that it's not them. It's just evolution. So from myself and everybody else that's a part of this journey, I love you guys. God bless you. Have a beautiful week. And I'll see you guys next Sunday. Okay. Love you. Later.